Thank you, Simona, and hello, everyone. First of all, I want to say, they say young curators, but even when people are very, very young, I would say that they are new in the field. And that's what defines a young curator. Being new in the field, even when you're 37 years old, as I am, means basically that you're trying to bring a different kind of knowledge to the table. It means that your logic of defining something, the logic of labeling and selection, is different than the dominant logic within a particular field. I'm very happy to be here because I'm able to speak for my truth, and being a contemporary agent who is from the post-Yugoslav region, who does operate internationally as well, there were a couple of things that I have come to, they simply came to my awareness. So today I'm here in the frame of the exhibition that is called Heroes We Love. And what is love? At its best, love is an illusion. At its worst, it's a political construct. And the fact that we are talking about love and that we are still in love with the heroes of the past means something. It means that we did not get the closure with the past. It means that the past has something that we need. And it means that the positioning of today has something that we lack. So I want to point to that. I don't have an answer, but I have a possibility to just propose a different visibility of the problem in terms of contemporary curating. And what is curating if not taking care of something? And as a contemporary curator, I would like to emphasize the need to take care of the contemporary condition. So not getting closure and leaning backwards are simply two different terms that I'm borrowing here from psychology. And curating is an interdisciplinary field that always borrows different terms and notions from various fields. And it is why it is so seductive. It gives us a possibility to look at the things from a different perspective. So I would like to use my time during this session to identify a particular position, which is a very dominant position within a post-Yugoslav region. And this position, its main characteristic is basically retroactivity. And from its best, or looking from a benevolent position, we can say that we are leaning towards the past because there is a particular willingness to learn from the past, to find new hypotheses for the future. But also simultaneously with this conference, there is another conference taking place today at the Garage Center for Contemporary Art, which is organized and curated by Zdenka Badovinac, a very well-known curator from Slovenia. And that conference as well, in a larger framework, is dealing with the fact, with revisionism in a sense. So I want to propose something. There is a huge difference to reside in the past, and there is a huge difference to refer to the past. And hereby we are this exhibition is a good example of how to not reside in the past, but try to find contemporary examples to refer as a past to the past and try to see a different horizon from it, to look from the position of criticality, which means to try to see in the future. So in relation to these two different positions or attitudes, which would be residing in and referring to the past, we can be marginalized in or empowered by the past. And persons who are curators should be very much aware of this position, especially today, because the past, some people would say, well, it's easy, the past is over, and we don't have to be afraid of it. But I think that we have to be afraid of the past, especially when we act from this region. This morning, Miško Šuvaković was talking about the reappropriation of the past that might serve as a tool for neoliberal regime today. And so I just want to emphasize that dealing with the past from this region could be explained even with a popular sentence when people say, well, he was a left-wing intellectual and then he married for money. We in the region, in the post-Yugoslav region, we have this huge threat, and we have to be aware of it. So, I want to, instead of proposing a benevolent perspective, I want to emphasize the need for a more critical approach. Positions that are stimulated and affirmed internally on a regional scale, they contribute to the increase or the decrease of the contribution on the international scale. So, why social realism might be so attractive even today? At the time of its inception, it's debatable, but we can say that it was a local equivalent of non-imperial art, or was it? How was it used within the region, and how was it perceived from the outside? Was it standing for an apologetic universalism and transnationalism as opposed to nation-states today? It is very hard to connect people from the region today, especially from the post-Yugoslav region. What is our common point of interest, if not socialist past? And are we able to find a different position? And what is that position? What's the truth of that position? How can we make transnationalism work in the region, in the post-Yugoslav region, from a different point of view than the socialist point of view? So my question is, what would be an alternative regional equivalent of non-imperial art today? Instead of finding that position, we have the eternal recurrence of the same in Nietzschean terms. And the doctrine of the eternal recurrence is, according to Nietzsche, the heaviest burden, the greatest weight, the greatest stress. The burden is, however, a paradoxical one, for it is a burden which liberates those who are able to bear it. And this eternal return of the same, the most terrifying of thoughts when viewed by one who lacks the strength to think it as his own, becomes the most liberating of thoughts for those who make it their own, for it opens up to them the path to complete affirmation of both self and the world. And talking constantly, not within this exhibition, but trying to get out from the region on the larger international global art scale, the most dominant position would be the one which would be based on the eternal return of the same. So, the question that I want to raise here is the question of the inaccessibility of the past to the creative will and the consequent restriction which this imposes upon the possibility of the genuine redemption today. I argue that by being retroactive, by stimulating socialist realism of the past, we must question if we are falling under the scrutiny of the law of the larger imperialism today. This is an example, this is not a post-Yugoslav example of art, it is a Romanian example, but I'm using it here because the fist is a universal symbol of protest. It is an inflatable sculpture that is used today not as a symbol of resistance, but in a window display of a gallery in a completely different context from its original one. So, by using the position of social realism or the leftist position today, are we actually doing somebody else a favor? In order to get just an insight in the new positioning of the region, I was trying to understand what are the reasons of dealing with the past. And there are many reasons. One of them is the trauma bonding. And what kind of trauma bonding? Trauma bonding is something that's very related to the impossibility to get the closure with the past. We can apply it to the larger frame, to the geopolitical region. We can apply it to the individual situation as well. Trauma bonding, well, there were a couple of traumas in the region. Even if you look at the time of the inception of social realism was, the freedom was allowed, but only to a limited extent. Because in 1946, Tito allowed the artists, and it was specifically written in some academic articles, that they are allowed to speak for their truth, but only to some extent. As long as they are supporting the state apparatus, they are allowed to have the freedom, which means there was no freedom. So there is a particular trauma related to social realism. And then there is the trauma that has released too much energy, which was the regional trauma of the 90s. And there is the third trauma, and that's the trauma of the impossibility to find the position of today. Another reason for not getting closure with the past is the fact that during the time of the inception of social realism, most of the critics were just defending a particular propaganda. They didn't care about art, as Stefanos mentioned. Just a moment. Okay. As Stefanos said today, he's not able to understand the content of these images, and at the time the content was very important. People did not react to the form as much as they did in the artistic circles. But when you follow the articles of art criticism, what was really mattered and what was very important was the propagandist aspect of it. So today we are able to judge something that was not being able to be properly judged at the time of its inception. So, as I said, another reason is the fact that the time is the great critic. The third reason for the impossibility of closure is the lack of identification of point today. And this is not my speculation only. When we look at the artistic work of Aleksandra Domanovic, one of the rare artists who has had a very successful international career and who is originally from Belgrade, in her video, Turbo Sculpture from 2011, she says that her generation simply does not have heroes to look upon. And they're looking as far as they can look, and they're looking to Hollywood. So she made a video about all the popular sculptures you're very familiar of, such as Bruce Lee in Mostar or Tarzan Monument in Serbia. But there is another thing with these monuments that are spread all throughout ex-Yugoslavia. The fact that they are capable of breaching the national borders. There is an element of transnationalism, and that was the closest we got to the Yugoslav condition today. And somehow the coherence of the region, it lacks. There has to be an amalgam, something that would connect the region which belongs to the present. But I'm not sure, maybe I'm wrong, I'm not sure if we are capable of finding it unless we refer to the past. So there is a particular trap in it. While making the idealization of the past, we are devaluating and discarding the present. And Igor Bošnjak made Bosnian artist. He has just finished 3 videos, and this is still from one of his videos about the legacy of the images of the socialist times. He would say that we are not governed by the past, but we are governed by the images of the past. And I would add that we are not only governed by the images of the past, but we are also governed by the function of the images of the past. Another reason to be unable to get the closure with the past are toxic ties. And what are the toxic ties? Well, there were some toxic ties which were related to the history of social realism. As I said, the art critics at the time of the inception of social realism, they were incapable of criticizing properly. So now is the time to revise the past, to do what has not been done when it was supposed to be done. And there is also another thing, which is a power-related vacuum, because on the institutional scale, the regimes of knowledge are a little bit delayed from the regimes of knowledge in the West, which means that not that people are not following, but that the understanding within the larger bureaucratic structure within the institutions, I'm not talking only about academic structures, but also bureaucratic structures, don't allow for new regimes of knowledge to emerge and are incapable of producing a new horizon or trying to figure out our position on a larger scale, meaning the global art world. So what can we do about it? Of course, artists, I'm a curator, so I'm not talking from the point of view of the artist, but I'm quite aware, being in the constant communication with the artists. I'm aware what they're doing. They're just following their own path, and they have a strong individualism and authorship that they're just the good ones are defending. And something that I have noticed as a curator, those artists who want to solve the problem, they are promoting a fictional time. They are not in the past, they're not in the present. Take for example David Maljković. He's one of the rare persons, I think there are only 2 persons from the post-Yugoslav region who will be represented at this Venice Biennale in the international exhibition. And I'm not referring to the Venice Biennale as the it place. I'm referring to the Venice Biennale, which will be curated by Okui Enweiser, who is quite known because he is critical of the hegemony of the Western art world and of the exoticism which is present in contemporary curating. Now, there have been some shifts, but that can be a topic of another conversation. So, David Maljković will be at the Venice Biennale, and he's using a particular fictional time, and he's using socialist monuments to imagine an alternative future, one informed by events of the past but never realized. And it is a way, it is a solution to solve all problems through new temporality, one that mixes past and the present in an uncertain future. But still, we have to ask ourselves, by promoting this kind of narratives, is our critical potential limited or not? Is this the position we want to have today, which is a contemporary position or not? It's just debatable. I'm not giving any answer. So, we are witnessing the ongoing crumbling process of the past. And what can curators do? Curators are responsible for driving that process of producing the change by changing the way they understand the region and by taking care of it. So I don't think that we can change the world. I don't think that art can change the world, but there is a way that art can help us to change the way we understand the world. So, how this perception or the awareness of the impossibility of closure can change curating? Heroes are there, past is there. We cannot make a closure. We cannot get the perfect or ideal to the perfect or ideal situation of no contact with the past. But we can raise the awareness of the misuse of the past in a larger global art world. So I argue for the epistemological intent not to understand the function of socialist realism today, but to understand its impact on the wider positioning of the region and to understand what does a contemporary look on reality imply. This is exactly what has been lacking in the discourse, which had a wide span from radical negation, institutional suppression, through conflict commodification, to individual uncritical nostalgia. So I'm on purpose using examples, this example as a non-post-Yugoslav example. This is a Polish example, because what I have found in non-post-Yugoslav art is a little bit more irony than in the Yugoslav art. These heavy weight lifters of the monuments, this is just an example to solve, to deal with the past today. But it does not speak about the contemporary position and how these artworks are used in a larger global scale. So I would, just to end, I would propose that if possible, from an idealist standpoint, we should think of the well-being of today as of a priority. Try to make a less regressive position of the region in the global art world. We should be aware that we have to avoid toxic ties and trauma bonding. And even if we have to deal with them, we have to use them in order to negotiate our position on the global scale. We have to be aware that we are only as good as those we are surrounded by. Try to change the keywords. And we should also take care of the past, but not taking care of the present, of the reappropriation of social realism by the neoliberal power, as it was said today by the keynote speaker, Miško Čuvaković. So, just to end, and to connect this conference to the conference that is happening in Moscow today, because I think that in the art world we have to be aware of the fact that we are living in the space of interdependency. This is the image that's been used to promote the conference that's happening in Moscow today. I would argue for the art world that in which there will be lines, but these lines will be different kinds of lines. Lines that would be supported by new regimes of knowledge and deal with the contemporary condition, and lines that would be capable of finding some kind of closure with the past. Thank you.